I'm Betty. Welcome to my kitchen. Our daughter Liz recently asked me to make an hors d'oeuvre for a family gathering, and she requested that I make these mushroom croustade, an hors d'oeuvre I've been making for many years. I didn't have the recipe on hand, but amazingly enough, I did remember exactly which cookbook it was in. And it's in a book called Michael Field's Cooking School. This is a book that was published back in 1965, and it got rave reviews when it came out. Of course, I did find the recipe and made them for her, but I took the time to go through the book, and it's amazing. Although this was a cooking school that purported to teach a lot of very good recipes, when I looked at them today, I found them a bit old-fashioned, a bit heavy, and really nothing we would make today, except for this one hors d'oeuvre. And so that's the one I'm going to share with you today, mushroom croustade. So the ingredients for the filling are a half teaspoon of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of flour, a half teaspoon of salt, about 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, more to taste of course, about 2 tablespoons of chives chopped. I've got 2 ounces of butter. I've got about 3 to 4 tablespoons of shallots, finely chopped. I've got a ½ pound of mushrooms, which I've finely chopped, or roughly chopped, I should say, and a cup of heavy cream. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is put the mushrooms into my food processor because I want these to be very finely chopped. Just drop those in there. And I'll just have to pulse them a few times. You don't want to put them into the processor whole. You do want to roughly chop them first. You'll get a much better chop at the end. And that's about where I want those. So you can see those are very finely chopped. Much easier to do them in the processor than trying to do them by hand. So to make our filling, we're going to start by melting our 2 ounces of butter in a large skillet. Just let that melt down a little bit. All right, once the butter has melted, I'm going to add these shallots, and I'm going to let them cook for about 4 minutes, just to soften them. I don't need them to brown. I just need them to cook. To make the shells for these croustade, I'm going to take a little tart pan. This one measures just over 2 inches. Of course, you can also use mini muffin tins for this. Those work very well also. Just want to brush that with some softened butter. And as I've said many times before, I love having a little pot of soft butter handy in my kitchen. It's wonderful if you have to grease a pan or a cookie sheet, or simply for spreading on toast. You can get a nice thin layer, get that butter flavor without too much butter. Next thing, I'm going to take a slice of bread, preferably the very thinly sliced bread. But if you can't find that, regular sandwich bread does work too. I'm going to really roll that as thinly as I can get it. And taking a cutter that's slightly larger than my tart pan, cut out a circle. Now this you can save, toss in your processor, and make fresh breadcrumbs. Or you can feed it to the birds, whatever you'd like to do with it. I'm just gently going to ease this bread into the tart pan. And once I've got that nice and secure, I'm going to just butter the inside again. Adds to the flavor, and it also makes the finished cup nice and crisp. And there you have it. Once I have these all prepared, I'll just pop them in the oven until they're nice and brown. After 10 minutes, the croustades are perfectly browned, just how we want them. We'll let them continue to cool, and then I'll remove them from the pans. And back to the filling. All right, the shallots have softened, and I'm going to add the mushrooms now. These are going to have to cook for a good 10 to 12 minutes. When you first put them in, you're going to see they're going to give off a lot of liquid, and we need to cook that until all of that liquid has evaporated. So as I said, it's going to take about 10 minutes, and we want to give these a good stir to get all the nice butter mixed in with them and the shallots, and then just stir them occasionally as they cook. I'm just going to give this another little stir, and you can see there's still quite a bit of liquid here, and we'll just continue cooking until the mixture is quite dry. Now that the mixture is dry, I'm going to add my seasonings. Chives, some salt, a little cayenne pepper, give that a tap to get that out, and a little bit of lemon juice. Just a half teaspoon, but it does perk things up. We'll give this a good stir to get all of these nicely mixed in. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to sprinkle over my 2 tablespoons of flour. And now I'm going to stir that until I can't see any of that white flour remaining. Once that's done, I will add in my cream and let that thicken. And that will be our mixture completed. It's really quite tasty. And a very handy hors d'oeuvre to have if you happen to have vegetarians visiting, which I frequently do. There, I don't see any white spots of flour, so I'm going to add in my heavy cream. I'm going to stir that, let it get all mixed in. I'm going to let that come to a boil and cook it until the mixture is quite thick. All right, this has come to a boil and has thickened nicely. So what we're going to do now is let it cool and refrigerate it until it's quite cold. So we'll do that and come back and show you the finished product. One of the nice things about this recipe is that you can prepare it ahead and freeze it. So I've got this packed up in my containers. I've got the croustade packed in a plastic bag, but then I'm putting them in a box because they are delicate and I don't want them to get bumped. Now, if you don't want to be bothered making these, this recipe would work well in those phyllo cups that are in the freezer section of your grocery store. They would work too. But I want to prepare one of these for you, and what I've done is just chilled a little bit of the filling. You can see it's nice and thick and stiff. I'm just going to pile it in that cup, and I'm going to take a little bit of freshly grated Parmesan cheese and put that on top. I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees, and I'm going to put this in for, I think, about 7 minutes. And once it's just about ready, I'm going to switch it and turn on the broiler to brown the top nicely. So here we go. This toaster oven comes in so handy when you're just doing a little bit. It heats very quickly and doesn't use a lot of power. One of my favorite appliances. So there you have it, mushroom croustade, a delicious addition to your appetizer repertoire. Enjoy.